This is Outlaw Lee Condry, and you're listening to Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
This is Steve Bowtie Bryant here. Back in the 90s, I was a pro wrestling photographer for the South, and I released what might have been one of the original sets of indie trading cards. I ran across some of these original sets. They were up in Randall Fanning's attic all this time. PG-13 rookie card, Ricky Morton, George Weingroff as the Sheik, Chris Champion, Reno Riggins, Billy Montana, Gary Valiant, the Scorpion, the Medic, Rick Reynolds, Jeff Daniels, Mephisto and Dante, Ben Jordan, Steve Neely, Marcus Woodrow, Quinton Quarisma, Little Farmer John. If you'd like an opportunity to get these cards, contact me now. You can get them for only $49.99. Contact me at stevebowtiebryant at iCloud.com. Get your set now while supplies last.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling.
For those who don't know, now you know, baby. This is Hot Rod Biggs, Jared, Jimmy Street. We're going to take them to the limit one more time, baby, right here on Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome one more time to the Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling podcast, and I'm here as always with my brother from the same father and mother, the Plastic Sheik, Jared Street. What's up, Sheik? How you doing?
Brother, I'm doing great tonight. How about you?
Man, I'm great. I can't complain.
As of late, I've always been bringing some charisma with me.
Well, that's
great.
And I
didn't disappoint you tonight.
Well, that's great, because that means you brought the territory wrestling guru and our co-host with the mo-host, Quinton Quarisma. What's up, Quinton? How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. How you guys doing?
Man, you've been baseballing it all day, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm frozen and baseballed out.
Yeah.
Today.
Pop of the glove and the ping of the bat, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's cool, man. And then you said they won both games, right?
Yeah. So I guess it was worth it.
Yeah. Well, since the Hokies suck, I'm going to have to start pulling for the Hilltoppers, I guess.
Yeah.
So. How are they at football? Never mind. We'll get into that another time. But anyway, so we've got a great show today, guys. I'm super excited about this one. Lee Condry was a friend of mine in the scene there in Nashville when I had my time there. And coming in and out of your career as well, Quinton, it's really cool to see how well connected you are with these guys from their past, and also how I'm connected with these guys. And sometimes they're not the same, and it's just cool to hear all these perspectives, man.
Oh yeah. It's because he started out, and then I can't even remember what year. Yeah, I was there from basically the beginning, and so he's in that part of that WMF bunch that I was basically there from the beginning of almost all of them.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, I'm excited to talk to him, but one thing I'm also excited about is quite possibly the most popular segment to come down the pipeline in 2025. That is
This Week in Wrestling History with Quinton Quarisma.
All right. We're going to do a few places today. I think first I'm going to go to March 4th, 1968. We're going to go to Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada.
Nice.
It's Northwest Promotions, and I don't know if Kanitsky had then bought into the promotion. It was either sometime in 68 or 69 he bought in, so he might have already been bought into the promotion by this time. I'm not for sure, because I saw 69 on some stuff, 68 on some, so who knows?
Yeah.
But, all right, so we're going to go the first match. We have Eric Frolich. We'll go Frolich. Eric Frolich wrestled Tony Oxford to a time limit draw. Frolich was a journeyman for 20 years. He worked everywhere, and just you name it, he worked there. A lot of kind of stuff. like up in Vancouver. I think he did Stampede and that stuff. And this Tony Oxford guy, he didn't find much. Did Canada and did Great Britain stuff. I don't think he worked a long time.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think he worked a lot. The way it looked, from what I can see, maybe 8 years or so, maybe. So then we got the second match, Emile Dupree, which then we've had him before on here. He's like he was the WF Dupree guy's dad. I can't remember which that guy.
Emile,
Emile's the dad.
Right.
He defeated Paul Dubois, and we had him last week.
Yeah, Dubois.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yep, I remember that.
But he was Gene Dubois on that card.
Oh, okay.
That's the wild man, the one with the bear and the one that got killed in the wreck with Adrian Adonis.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I remember.
So he was Paul this week. Last week he was Gene. I didn't realize it was him until I wrote it down. I was like, okay, that last name is familiar. I was like, he's got to be. I looked it up and said, that's the same guy. So we're in 2 weeks in a row. Okay, third match we have Don McClarty wrestled Rocky Johnson to a draw. Don McClarty wrestled everywhere and wrestled for Gula, Stampede, and everything, and everybody knows Rocky Johnson.
I was going to say, is that the Rocky Johnson?
Yeah, it's from what
What year was this? 60, what did you say?
68.
I guess he'd have been young then, but I think he started young too, though. So
it should be him because he's from Canada. So,
right.
I don't know if that's where he's from and where that's at. It's a long way away, but still, I don't, so I don't know. I know it had to be him. It says it's him.
Oh yeah, I think it probably definitely was. I just tried to process it in my brain, because he would have been young then. But I'm pretty sure. I'm an expert on Rocky Johnson because I watched Young Rock shows. So I'm just kidding. If I learned anything about him from that, I'd say he was full carny. So
yeah, he was definitely something there.
Oh yeah. He definitely was that. All right, so we'll go to the next match. We have Gaylord George defeated Bruce Kirk. Yeah, now this Gaylord George, from what I could see of it, it says it was Gorgeous George Jr., which is no relation to Gorgeous George. If it's really the Gorgeous George Jr., he worked Tennessee a lot. And I think he finished up his career, I want to say was it 85-ish, maybe early 86, working for George and Nick Goulas up in Lebanon. And here's another, I wish I'd have known this was him when I thought about it, if I actually knew it was him, because actually, if this is Gorgeous George Jr., he moved to Mount Juliet in 85, and I had PE class with his son.
Wow.
Because we used to talk about wrestling. What's that?
So that's a deep cut there, brother.
Yeah. So, if this is Gorgeous George Jr., which it says it, but I don't, because there's been a few Gorgeous George Juniors, and there was actually another Gorgeous George that, what was his name? That wasn't the real Gorgeous George, the wagon. Are
you talking about Junior or the third? Or
No. There was another guy who said he was Gorgeous George.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He was Gorgeous George and had a last name added on to his. And it was on, I wish I'll figure it out. or somebody will send it to me, like they every show a few days later they send me a thing back saying, hey, this was who that was.
Yeah, and Kroll offered to say that if you ever needed results from USWO shows, he has them. So
I definitely need to get with him. So
yeah.
So the Bruce Kirk guy, they say that he was Frank Monty. He was one of the Alaskans. So that must have been him. That had to be real early in his career.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So then we go to the fifth one, and we have Trotsky the Bear defeated Bad Boy Shields.
Wow. Well, at least we know it wasn't Smokey the murdering bear. But
yeah, so then when I put two and two together, I was like, well, that's the Wild Man, but he only had, according to that, everything I've read, he only had 3 bears, which is Terrible Ted, Smokey, and Gentle Ben.
Okay.
I've never seen nothing about Trotsky the bear, so I don't know who Trotsky the bear was.
Yeah.
That's something I have to look up, because I mean, there couldn't have been too many bears back in the day. I mean, that wasn't something that just, you got plenty of spoilers, and those wrestling bears, you didn't have many of them. So,
right.
And the Bad Boy Shields guy was a journeyman, worked forever. A lot of stuff in Canada. He did some AWA stuff, WWE stuff, then. Just a journeyman, worked forever.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we go to the 6th match. Sky High Jones defeated Carl Von Steiger. We've had Carl Von Steiger on here a couple times, but Sky High Jones, I had no clue who that was. Y'all guess who that is?
It sounds like what somebody would call Michael Jordan, like if they didn't know his name, and he was Sky High Jones jumping there. Look at him.
To me, it sounds so like an indie pothead gimmick, But it was actually Grizzly Smith.
Whoa.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
That's what I said.
That's crazy.
That's what when I looked up, everything said it was him.
Well, he's got other issues.
Seriously.
I guess because he was so high. I mean, so tall, and so they said he's high. No, he probably was high. But you know what I'm saying? I guess, sky high. He was sky high,
Yeah.
But yeah, I've never seen that. But that's what a little bit I could find. It went straight to that. So, and I have no clue if it really was him. But like I said, everything I've seen it was, and this was 1968. So, when he already doing the Kentuckians by then?
I was thinking that. I was trying to think of the.
He already did the Kentuckians by then.
Yeah. So, okay.
Maybe that's not him. Who knows? Whoever wrote this might have been Sky High.
Sky High themselves, yeah.
All right, then we go to the 7th match. We got Bobo Brazil. He defeated the Mongol. And there's been a lot of Mongols through the years. And so I don't know if this one was, the one that worked a lot of places, worked. So I don't, like AWA, and I think there's one in Japan. I remember seeing the main Mongols, but I can't be the same guy because he was all over. I've seen that name all over the place. So the Mongols, and then that's going to kind of go into this other match here. Actually, the last match. Okay, this match right here, this 8th match, is the reason why I actually pulled this card and did it.
Okay.
I would give anything if this was on video. Lou Thez defeated Abdullah the Butcher by disqualification.
Oh, man.
Talk about styles clash.
Seriously.
Golly.
And, Thez, I mean, by that time, he was, 50s?
Probably. Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure he wasn't wanting to do a bunch of gore.
Right.
I mean, I'm just wondering how that really, and him actually agree to work Abdullah.
Put that fork in his forehead. Can you imagine? I don't see that.
Abdullah fully doing that at that time?
I don't know if he's doing the fork, but still Abdullah's brawling, and I don't think little bit of video footage I've seen of Thez, I haven't seen no brawling,
Yeah.
Thez might have stretched him.
A punch? I don't think I've seen Thez throw a punch in what the videos I've seen.
Yeah.
Yeah, me either. That's a good question.
So that, like I said, I would really like to see that one on video.
Yeah.
All right. So we go to the 9th match. It's the main event. It's for the NWA Vancouver Canadian Tag Team titles. Okay, and this is another one. This could be like the Mongols on this one. The Mongol. We got the champions. The Assassins defeated Don Leo Jonathan. And Jim Knitsky in a 2 out of 3 falls. The Assassins won 2 falls to 1. And I don't know if that is, who knows about the Assassins, man? Because this is 1968. And maybe, but I know in the 70s, it seemed like everybody had assassins, not, doing jobs, actually putting them over as their tag team. So who knows if these were the original ones or not,
Yeah, right.
I mean, that's one thing about, doing this stuff. It's like, gosh, were these the original ones? But 68, I'm thinking it might be, because I said that if Knitsky's running this, I'm sure I don't see him bringing in another team and making them the assassins, but I could be wrong. Who knows?
Right.
I should have picked this card, but the only reason why I did was because that Abdullah Luthez match that I would love to have seen. So
yeah. Quick note: I did find about Grizzly Smith. That was him.
Was it? Okay.
Sky High Jones. It said he teamed with Don Leo Jonathan to defeat the Assassins for the Vancouver version of the Canadian Tag Team Championships in '67, I think.
Okay. Wow.
And then,
so it was now.
Yeah.
That is cool.
Well, that's a tall tag team.
Yeah.
No kidding, man. Seriously.
But he was with the Kentuckians before that.
Yeah, okay.
So,
I thought he was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because didn't Jake the Snake and Luke Brown, they were like the new Kentuckians in like the early 70s, mid 70s. So
yeah,
it sort of had to be before this. Okay. All right. Here's one I've been waiting to do for a long time.
Okay.
We're going to go to Nashville, Tennessee, March 2nd, 1976 for Luthez's UWA.
Nice.
That's the promotion I have just sunk my teeth into for the last 20 years. I've researched the crap out of this place.
That's awesome.
All right. I was going to do the results, but the way they had them written out, I just went with the actual card advertised. Mm-hmm. I'll put the results up on the page. So
okay, cool. Yeah.
So we're going to go, and this was their first show. They actually ran this at the Municipal Auditorium. So this was a big deal. This was their first show. They then started their TVs in Nashville. They were that going, and they were running opposition against Nick Goulas. So this was their first show out of the gate at the Municipal Auditorium. The first match was the Islanders with Saul Rongroff taking on the Interns with Ken Ramey. Now, the Islanders were off in Sika. They were baby faces. And it was crazy because Sal Rongroff always been a heel manager.
Right.
But they started this promotion up, and he was part of the startup of the promotion. He was in the office, and he was actually babyface.
Wow.
Yeah, and there's footage of all this out there now. Okay, then we go to the next match. I'm going from the main event down the way they get this written out.
Okay.
It's going to be Eric the Red versus Nelson Royal. Now that's a Styles clash right there.
For sure, man. Yeah.
Not AJ Styles clash.
No, AJ. I mean, Eric the Red, he was like 6'3", at least 350. I mean, he was a big damn. Did we talk about him a few weeks ago? Yeah,
yes.
He was on one of the cards a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Against Nelson Royal, and so Nelson. Yeah, because this was about the time period he left. I think he was doing some of that IWA stuff, and then he went back, and then I think they put that junior heavy on him, NWA junior heavy.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I just noticed, man, that's really off. All right, and then we got a tag team match. We got Cowboy Parker and Hartford Love with manager Al Costello against Luis Martinez and Flying Fred Curry.
Mm-hmm.
And you ought to see the way this stuff is written out. It's like another outstanding tag team fall when 45-minute time limit. They really made this sound out to be just crazy. Then we got to go to the next one is a women's match. We got Princess Jasmine versus Romana Isabel. I don't think I've ever heard of any of them.
No.
And then says special guest referee will be Music Row's own BJ McElwee. So, but I do know from the tapes, BJ McElwee actually become the regular referee. So, but it says Music Row's own, so he must have been something with Danny Davis and Buddy Lee, the owners. They were in the music business, so he must have been working for them.
Gotcha.
Then the next match, Bearcat Wright. This match did not happen. Imagine that, Bearcat Bright not showing up for somewhere. So we go to the next one. Wild Bull Curry versus Mark Starr. And this is not Mark Starr, Chris Champion's brother.
Okay, I was going to ask.
Yeah. He would have to be about 10 years old.
Yeah, gotcha. That makes sense.
And then we get the next match. We have Big Walter Johnson versus the Spoiler. And this was Cleveland Browns guy, Walter. And later on, they was calling him Rocky Johnson there. So that was kind of odd that they actually used his name at first, and then I guess it didn't draw anything, so let's change his name. I guess they figured nobody would notice. And the spoiler was Frank Morrell.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah.
And let's see, I think they have the fine print's so small, and they have one more match. It's Mike Boyette against Pistol Pez Watley.
Oh, man. Dude.
And this is I don't know how they advertise it, but that the match right there, Mike Boyette and Pistol Pez Watley, the font, the type is so small you can barely read it. And above it, it says 8 big bouts, 24 wrestlers, 3 referees. It's so big you can see that, but you can't see Mike Boyette and Pistol Pez Watley unless you squint.
That ain't right.
Oh, and also there was a special added attraction. MGM recording star Billy Thundercloud and the Chief Notes. I don't know who that is, but they were there.
Yeah.
But going back to this was, like I said, this is the big first show, and they did a big angle where I think it was after the match, Ramey and the interns jumped Saul, and they had to call the ambulance and cart Saul Weingroff from the ambulance off to the hospital. Yes, they did a big angle the first night with that. So
poor Saul.
All right. Okay, so here we go to this is going to be the last one. All right. This one was kind of a little off the wall here. We're going to go to Bangor, Maine. It's going to be February 27th, 1985. This is for the Savoldi's ICW.
Nice. Okay.
This card is held at the Bangor Auditorium. So, and this was a really weird time period for ICW because a lot of people know their TV. And I've heard people talk about it. They didn't book weekly towns with angles, because they were all over the map with their towns and stuff, and their TV was sometimes you would get, I know toward the late 80s, they said you would get reruns like the same show 3 weeks in a row.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was all over. They said it was just all over the place. But this card was really cool. And so we got the first match. We got Ray Apollo defeated Kid, is that Kielbasa?
Kid Kielbasa. It looks
like Kielbasa. I thought it did. It looks like Kielbasa. Ray Apollo, he was one of the doinks in WWF. Yeah. I think he might have been the first one after Bourne left. But Ray Apollo was one of them. And so we go to the
Doink 3.
He was one of them. I can't remember if he was the one right after it, but he was in there somewhere.
Somewhere, yeah.
Yeah, he was one of them. So he from what I read, he was one of the actually he did it. He was out of the ones that all the ones that were doing it. He was the ones that was hired long. He did it more in the WWF than the 50 other ones they would put in the suit.
Yeah. All
right, so we'll go to the next match. Got Diamond Jim defeats Rudy Diamond. That's diamond on diamond crime there, I guess. Couldn't find that on Jim Diamond. Rudy Diamond, it was a local guy from what I could tell.
Yeah.
All right. Now gets interesting. This is a non-title tag team match. Champions, the Sheep Herders, Butch Miller, Luke Williams defeated Angelo Gomez and Invader 3. So that's what's kind of weird is because that's that's a guy from Puerto Rico. Now the other guy, Gomez, I don't think he ever worked Puerto Rico. He was a guy from the Northeast and worked a lot of the WWF. It looks like maybe even WWF tapings.
Okay.
Yeah, just opening card guy, and like I said, and did the preliminaries and stuff. But yeah, I figured. But Invader 3, everybody knows he's Puerto Rican. So I thought, he was Puerto Rico too, but no, he wasn't. So then we got the next match, and this is a WWC tag team title match. It's the Rock and Roll Rockers. Al Perez and Joe Savoldi defeated King Tonga and Super Medic.
Nice.
King Tonga is Haku, Super Medic. He's from Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
And then the main event is a WWC Universal Heavyweight title match. Champion Carlos Colon defeated Taurus Bulba.
Oh, okay.
You had some guys from Puerto Rico. Carlos brought some guys up, and they worked. And then I looked. Then, I think it was the night after this, they worked. I don't know, one more match. I missed this one. In a singles match, Dory Funk Jr. wrestled Hercules Ala to a draw.
Huh.
So you had 1, 2, 3, 4, six guys from Puerto Rico come up with Carlos.
Wow.
And I noticed I think it was the night before, the night after, and I think it was in Portland, Maine. They were same crew. So I don't know if they come up there to do a tour or do y'all remember the Pro Wrestling USA that got going that they were going to try to compete against Vince? It was like NWA, all the promotion.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was that in 85? I'm wondering maybe if he was up there because they did some tapings, I think, in the Meadowlands. So I'm wondering if they were already up north for that.
They might have been.
Because I know Carlos worked some of those Pro Wrestling USA stuff. So that's probably why they were, because I was like, that's a long way to go from Puerto Rico to Maine.
Just for,
yes.
Yeah.
Just for a few dates.
Right.
So,
right. Yeah. That makes sense, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was, and people keep saying, I don't even, what's the podcast guru guy that does it with Arn Anderson and
Quinton Quarisma?
No. What's the guy's name?
I'm not sure. I'm sorry.
We only recognize Quinton Quarisma.
Are you talking about Conrad? Conrad.
Yeah, Conrad. He even don't realize he still thinks Taurus Bulba is the guy, Bruiser Bedlam, Johnny K9.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and if anybody listens, Johnny K9, Bruiser Bedlam, or Smoky Mountain was not Taurus Bulba. So
that's great.
Yeah, I do know that.
Yeah.
He talked about it on one of his podcasts with Jeff Jarrett. Was like, Taurus Bulba, Bruiser Bedlam. I'm like, no, it's totally two different guys. They don't even look alike. I mean, I don't. Anyway,
that's why y'all need to be listening to us,
not them.
Right.
I've rambled on enough for today. I've probably bored everybody. Really, today I've really bored you.
No, not at all.
Deep dives and brain freeze and everything else.
Oh man, it was great. We appreciate it, brother, as always, man. For sure.
All right, I hope everybody enjoys it. And this has been
This Week in Wrestling History with Quinton Quarisma.
All right, that was one more excellent This Week in Wrestling History segment with our homie Quinton Quarisma. Now, on to the show. Y'all ready for some Outlaw Lee Condry?
Let's get it going.
Let's do it.
We'll be right back after these messages.
Hey guys, this is Wolfie D from PG-13. Check out my podcast, Live and in Color with Wolfie D, every Monday at noon. We're talking Memphis, we're talking ECW, WCW, WWF, everywhere that I've been. We even have some great guests, some Hall of Famers on the show with us. Every Monday, Live and in Color with Wolfie D.
This is Kroll, and you're listening to Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling with Jimmy Street and Jared the Plastic Sheik. Be sure to like, subscribe, and view all of our USWO and SAW wrestling content at Nashville Wrestling Network, exclusively on YouTube.
Hey everybody, Gene Jackson here, inviting you to check out the Retro Wrestling Review, where each week I'm joined by some great co-hosts who help me review classic episodes of USWA Championship Wrestling, and right now we are doing week-by-week reviews of 1993. But we don't just do reviews, sometimes we get a chance to interview some of the people who were there and lived it, plus do watch-alongs. It's a lot of fun, so check out new episodes that drop every Wednesday at WrestleCopia.com, and to find links to everything associated to the podcast, you can go to USWApodcast.com.
All right, we are back with more from Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling. Of course, I'm here with the Sheik and Quinton, but today we've got an extra special guest. See, in normal times, you typically don't have the son before the father, especially if they're in the same division, right? If they're in the same, they're in wrestling together. So normally you would have the father first, and then you would have the son. Well, we did it backwards on our show. On old episode 17, we had cousin Condry, Trenton, one of my old buddies from the Nashville scene, but another buddy of mine from the Nashville scene is his dad, the Outlaw Lee Condry. And so I'm going to put it out there. I'm going to put myself on blast, Lee. Around the time of that interview with cousin, I do believe that I sent you a message saying something to the effect of, "Hey, Lee, man, you want to come on the show?" And I think you said, "Yes, of course, whenever, man. Just let me know."
That's right.
And what is it, 2 years later?
Yeah, it's been a little while.
I'm sorry, man. I that's on me, brother. But to be honest, it's actually better because I feel like here in the past, since our Jimmy Powell episode, we've really amped it up over here with Quinton on the show. So it's going to be even better than it would have been then anyway, Lee. So don't feel too bad, man.
No.
No, but man, welcome to the show, Lee Condry. Thank you for coming on, brother.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Now, we first met, I'll never forget this. We talked about this with Aaron Camaro, and this is going to go out of your order, so we're going to step out. But you were working at HWA at that time, and there's something that I'll never forget in my entire history of working in the business is I show up at HWA. They're trying to get me to be this guy that's pretending to be like I have the TV at CW, right? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Do you remember all this happening?
I do.
And if I'm not, I feel like you were about one of the only dudes that didn't believe us. I think you might have smelled a rat or something, but you were nice to us. You were nice to me. I'll say that. I can't speak for anybody else, but I'm sure you were. But yeah, man. And so we do a little angle, and it ends up that I'm the boss, and it turns into this little angle. And then you come out, and you've got your son with you, and your son, right. Trenton, at this time, little cousin Condry, is carrying a baseball bat that I'm pretty sure he is going to hit me in the kneecaps with it because he just has that look in his eye.
Right. Yeah. He was young then.
How old was he at that point? Do you remember?
Oh, I would say probably 13, maybe.
Okay.
Something like that.
Yeah. Anyway,
maybe younger than that.
Yeah. He was walking around because I think I managed him, and he was 14 at Porter's.
Yeah.
And he was killing it
so
then.
He had to be younger than that. Yeah. He was little.
Yeah. And so anyway, well, that was a cool little story. And I was always afraid that he was going to, and I still kind of always have that fear, even though I feel like he and I are friends. I still feel like he might hit me in the knee with the baseball bat every once in a while.
You never know.
You never know. Right. Yeah. Well, we'll talk more about cousin here in just a little bit, Lee, but the first question we always like to ask comes from my brother, the Plastic Sheik. Take it away, Sheik.
All right,
Lee. So if you had a list of people that have influenced you in the business, whether you like to watch them perform, you like to wrestle them, they influenced you when you were a kid, like 4 or 5 names, like a Mount Rushmore, who would that be?
Okay. First off, my first one would be Beautiful Bobby. That would be my first one.
Yeah, love it.
No, number 2, I would say Tracy Smothers.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Let's see. I tell you don't hear a lot of, but I always liked to watch him work, and that was Dean Malenko.
Oh, dude.
I love watching Dean work. I love watching him work. Let's see. I would probably, the fourth one's going to be a hard one. here's another one that it's different style, but I mean, I'll do 5 of them. The next one is going to be Eddie Guerrero.
Oh, yeah.
I love Eddie. And the last one, a lot of people wouldn't think, but I always like to watch Tajiri work.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I always like to watch Tajiri.
That's cool.
That's a good list, man. Good list.
What was he, the buzzsaw or something? The Japanese buzzsaw? Or that, yeah. Tajiri was a throwback, but man, that list, Bobby Eaton, Tracy Smothers, 2 of the greatest people to ever walk in the business ever. And I'm talking about real life people,
Right.
Then you got Dean Malenko, one of the best workers of all time. I mean, as far as I think, I take that back. Quentin's going to correct me if I don't. He's one of the best wrestlers of all time because as a worker, he was a little dry, but as a wrestler, there wasn't many better ever,
Right.
And then, of course, Eddie Guerrero, man. Wow. Geez. Yeah. That's incredible. Sheik, what'd you think about that list, man?
I think it's great. Might be the first time we've had, somebody like Dean Malenko or Eddie Guerrero on the list. And those people kind of, they fall in a time period. Sometimes our guests kind of overlook or something like that. I feel like
because they were more peers with those guys,
right? Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So it's always good. Eddie Guerrero. I mean, his
might be the greatest of all time. Actually, if you think
he's influenced so much of the generation that's wrestling now.
Yeah.
It's incredible. You see, if you turn on TV, AEW, TNA, WWE, whatever you want to say, and you watch one of their matches, a lot of times you're going to see some influences from Eddie Guerrero in that match.
Yeah, so, definitely.
Pretty cool, man. Got a great list.
And Rey Mysterio's son looks just like him, too.
Exactly.
Yeah, somebody jumped the fence.
That's funny. Well, as we always do after the Mount Rushmore, we always put it back to the subject of the show, and that's Lee Condry. So, Lee, tell us about like your younger days. Tell us about a young outlaw, just cutting his teeth. Where were you born? Where'd you go to school? That kind of stuff.
Well, I was born in Dixon, Tennessee.
Okay.
And then by the time second grade hit, we had moved to Murfreesboro. So I lived in Murfreesboro the majority of my whole life, in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. So I lived there, just watch wrestling, watch Memphis wrestling on TV. Really didn't watch a whole lot of, the WWF stuff, which growing up, every kid, like wrestling.
Yeah,
but,
right.
And then I kind of phased out of it for a little while, and then one of my former tag partners, I knew before I even got in the business, and that was Brian Lee.
Oh yeah.
I actually wrote this before I even started training and stuff, and would go to shows with him. I mean, we were actually friends before I got in business.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. So, that's very cool. That's very cool. Yeah. And so do you remember about what time how old you were when you started liking wrestling? Like, do you remember?
Oh man, I was little. I remember going to Nashville watching the Fabulous Ones and, and all those guys, man, when I was little.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, as I was getting a little older, I kind of phased out of it a little bit, and then, and then got drew back into it.
Start noticing girls and stuff,
Right.
Yeah.
I started. A cousin of mine you probably know, he didn't even finish training. He was actually training for Brian Cheatum.
Oh, okay.
And then he called me just out of the blue, and he was like, hey man, he's like, I'm training for wrestling. Do you want to come and try it out? And I was like, well, I'll come and watch. And Quentin, that was when Brian was running the building in Murfreesboro across from the police department. Do you remember that?
Is that the Gold's Gym, behind Gold's Gym?
The old Gold's Gym.
Yeah.
Yep. There. So
yeah, that's cool.
That's where I kind of sunk my teeth into starting.
Yeah. Okay.
So you started training with Brian, right?
Right.
So how long did you train with him?
With Brian Cheatum, I trained for about, I would say 6 months.
You said your cousin was training. Did he ever actually? Did he ever actually work?
No.
Well, I don't know who he is. I wouldn't know him.
Yeah, his name was Jimmy. I think about 2 or 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks into training, he quit.
Oh, okay.
That sounds like a Jimmy.
Do you remember like your first match? Do you remember who was against? Like
Tommy Big Figure.
Tommy Big Figure. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
What was it for a certain promotion or who was it?
It was for Brian Cheatum for WML, and that was actually Quinton. Brian had ran that. It was like a garage type building in Laverne.
Yeah,
you remember that?
Yep.
Gotcha.
There. Mm-hmm.
Good
That's
deal.
cool. That's cool. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. I don't even know this one. So, when you first started, you were going by the Indian Outlaw.
Correct.
Where did that name come from?
Well, Brian Cheatum. I was framing houses at the time, right?
Okay.
I was dark complected. That had the kind of the long hair mullet, and Brian was like, "Well, why don't we do you like an Indian gimmick? Come out with the headdress and stuff like this." So we sat there for hours and was talking. We was trying to come up with one, and the song actually played by Tim McGraw, the Indian Outlaw song.
That's funny.
And we both together. That's how we come up with it.
That is wild.
Yeah.
All right. So how did the name Condry come about?
Okay. This was back when Bert run the Outer Limits. You remember that, Quinton?
Yeah.
Well, he run the Outer Limits over off Nolanville Road, and Blackie was booking. Blackie West was booking. Well, then he was going by Lucky West, and me and Brian Lee and Bobby Eaton was there, and me and Blackie and Bobby and Brian, we were all standing around. It was like because at the time I dropped the Indian Outlaw and I was just going by the Outlaw. So it was Bobby's idea. Is like, hey, why don't you run under Dennis's last name? I was like, well, would Dennis be cool with it? He's like, yeah. So he'd actually talked to Dennis, and Dennis was cool with it. He said, so why don't we go by the Outlaw Lee Condry? It's actually Bobby's
That's
idea.
a good name.
That is amazing. That is awesome.
It sounds right too. It just fits.
Yeah, it really does. It's I've tried to get Dennis on a podcast, but I'll stay with Cousin and Lee though. I'm all good with y'all. Dennis don't want to do it. I'm gonna take y'all all day.
Right.
So. Keep going, Quinton. You got it.
All right. So backtrack just a little bit on this. So your first time you met Brian, what did you think about him? And do you have any other stories about him and just working for him?
Are you talking about Brian Cheatum?
Yeah.
Well, the first time I met Brian was when I come up there to train. Brian was always super nice to me, always. I mean, what can you say? I mean, he's a super nice guy. He was super nice to me with the business and outside the business. So I've always got a place for Brian, in my heart, because he always treated me fair. He's always good to me.
That's awesome. Yeah. But I think you took that on because you were that way with me. So thank you, Lee.
Yeah. Well, I treat people the way, if they're nice to me, I want to be the same way. And I treat somebody the way I'd want to be treated. So
yeah, that's the golden rule, man. That's how to be.
So, Brian stepped away and, Rusty, Chris Gatlin, and I actually helped him book Smyrna when Brian stepped away, and I think that lasted to like May, and then he shut down, and everybody went separate ways. Where did you end up going when WMF shut down in May of 2001?
Well, I actually, if you remember, I worked. I can't remember if I went up there to Gallatin to work with Tim Scruggs.
That was later on. That was later on.
Okay. It was probably for Porter, because I worked for Porter at Grand Slam in Columbia.
Okay.
That was back Jeff and Chris Champion was there, and Tim Ernesto and Rusty and Steve was there. That was the time when Rusty on the podcast, he was talking about when they went to Florida.
Gotcha.
For the NWA tag titles.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Got it. Okay. So how did you meet old Bert Prentice? How did you officially meet him?
That was when, at that time, I was working for Porter in Columbia at Freddie's Auction House in Columbia.
Okay.
And they were kind of swapping talent back and forth from Mike to Bert. You know, they were swapping talent. So, you know, I would go to the fairgrounds and work, and then in all honesty, Bert was paying me better. You know, and he asked me if I wanted to come work for him full time. So I went to Mike. Mike tried to talk me out of it.
Not with pay though, but
right. So I went and worked for Bert full time at the fairgrounds, and that was before even Chase had come in, and that was back when Bart Sawyer was there, Mike Rapata, Hot Rod Biggs, Blackie. I mean, it was a good locker room.
Do you remember your first match in the fairgrounds?
The first match in the fairgrounds, I believe it was against Ashley Hudson.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How did that feel growing up there? And then
it was awesome, man, because you know, going there as a kid watching wrestling, it's kind of like everybody else says, it's kind of like the Madison Square Gardens of Tennessee.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I'm envious in a good way of everybody that got to work in that building, because I think it's so cool to talk about that, man, you know, because,
So talk to us a little bit about, you mentioned it a little bit there earlier, getting booked in SWA in Gallatin for Tim Scruggs in 2002. Any stories, memories, stuff about that time there?
Yeah, it was, Tim had paired me with, was it Lance
Dreamer?
Lance Dreamer. It was David Young's brother, and we actually worked a deal against Quinton and Insane Shane.
Oh yeah,
hey.
There. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You remember that, Quinton?
I mean,
yeah. We worked probably 2 months or so.
Oh yeah, and not long after that was when I was in the process when I went there I was actually fixing to open my show.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's cool, man. That's cool.
Okay, I'm gonna back up to this. He said, asked if I remembered SWA working up there with them. I remember one story I'll never forget. You remember the clothesline?
The clothesline. Give me a little bit more on.
Remember the hot tag?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was classic.
Inside jokes on podcasts don't work, fellas.
No.
Well, see what happened was there was hot tag, heat on Dreamer, hot tag to Lee. Shane hot tag got me. When I fed in, I don't know what happened, but I was running, but I wasn't going nowhere. And, like, my feet were spinning, and then as soon as I caught, I went forward right in to Lee's arm. My face. And
do you remember this? Do you remember the headlock takeover? And we're laying there, and you said, "You fart?" And I was like, "No." You said, "It must be the damn ref then." And you looked up. I was laughing so hard.
It sounded like something would happen up there.
Yeah, because Lance heard you, and he was bent over the rope and had his mouth covered with his arm. He was laughing. He had tears rolling out of his eyes.
Well, who farted? Don't ever know.
Well, I guess it was the ref.
I think it's probably the ref.
Yeah.
Not as bad as Pops the ref and Laverne. You remember that, Quinton?
Oh yeah. Yeah, he'd run you out, man.
Oh,
Ooh.
man.
Oh man.
That ain't right. That ain't right.
Oh yeah, something had spoiled up in him, man.
No.
Yeah, man. Hey, man. I was remember it was in Laverne, and where they run the music up top. I was sitting up there, and you could smell it up there.
Oh my!
Oh gosh!
It was horrible. Yeah. Look here, Quinton and Kilo was getting ready to lock up in the ring and stopped. They stopped, and Quinton, he looked at Kilo. He said, "You cut the damn cheese?" And Kilo, he's like, "No, it wasn't me, and it was the ref."
Oh,
it was
man.
Pops, the ref.
That ain't right.
Yeah, it was bad.
Oh,
It was bad.
Yeah. Ugh.
I got lost on the fart story. Hard to top a good fart story, you know. So,
Yes.
all right. So, since you work for Brian and you work for Tim Scruggs, a lot of people said that both those promotions they had like a cult mentality. Because it's kind of like the same way, man. You know, Brian would bring people in and train them, and they would stay there forever. And then like Scruggs did the same thing. He'd train people and they'd stay there forever. So you know, people say it was like so did you ever get that feeling? Because I did. They did, but
I never did.
It was a little different.
Yeah, but I never did. Like I said, you know, when Brian stopped running, when Brian shut down, you know, I stayed with Brian to the end. You know, but I mean, I never felt that. I know when I opened up mine, you know, when I told Tim I was opening up a show, you know, that I would only be there so long, if you remember.
Yeah.
And then Mike Jablonski, he come up, he's like, "Well, I want to come work for you." He's like, "But if I quit," he's like, "I'm going to get heat." I said, "Well, if you're going to get heat," I said, don't quit."
Yeah.
You know, and then, you know, and then it wasn't long, you and Mike, you know, come to the Armory when I was running, and then Tim hated me after that.
So I had already left Tim. I already left, and Mike was still there, and so
that's right. You had come to me before Mike, and then Mike come because I told him, I said, "Look, man," I said, "if you're going to get heat, you know, for leaving the show," because didn't Tim train Mike or something like that?
No, he didn't. No, Mike got trained by several different people, but he went up there and he'd already been working up there, and he would go up there to their training classes and stuff. But he didn't get trained there. But I think Tim, because Mike couldn't get booked anywhere else at the time, and I think Tim thought that Mike owed him. That's what I got. I mean, that might not be what it was, but that's what I got from it, was that, you know, Tim, and because if you trained with Tim, you couldn't leave. Because that's what happened with Eric Andrews.
Which I told him, I said, "Man, if you're going to get heat," I said, "don't leave, you know, stay there, you know." But it was like a week or two later, he showed up at the Armory, and I used him, you know, and I didn't even know I'd had heat with Tim until Woody. You remember Woody? Oh yeah. He called me and said, "Hey," he said, "I need somebody to work, you know, up at Tim's." He said, "You want to come and work me?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Oh." He's like, "Okay." So I was halfway to Gallatin. He called me. He's like, "Man, turn around." He's like, "Tim said you can't come and work up here because you stole all his guys." I said, "Man, I didn't steal nobody." Yeah. but you know, that's the business. It is what it is.
Yeah, that's, you know, just, he wouldn't, if he trained you, you couldn't go nowhere else, which I didn't understand that, you know.
Because at that time when I was there, when me and Lance was working you and Shane, let's see, Thumper was there, Buzz was there, what was LA Player there?
Yeah, he was there. Yeah,
he was there. Mm-hmm.
But if he actually trained you, you couldn't go nowhere. I don't know, you know, what the deal was when he told him, you know, when he started training them, if he told them they couldn't go then. But yeah, I don't know but it was. I just know that he'd get heat with you if you if you left him and he trained you. So, and yeah, I did hear he was mad at you too because some of the guys left come work for you. But I mean, you know.
That's the business. Right.
Yeah,
you can't make everybody happy.
I worked for him for 2.5 years, and then I went to work, and I quit him. I didn't quit him to go to you, but I quit, and then you was running. I was like, well, I'm gonna go up here and work here, you know. But he got mad at me too So, and I was like, you didn't say me, dude. I've been working over 10 years before I ever come work for you, you know?
Right.
So, who knows?
Lee, tell us a little bit. So you've talked about it, hear about starting your own promotion. Tell us a little bit about like the process of what you go through to getting that started, and like what towns you ran and everything like that.
Well, I basically run like Smyrna, Murfreesboro, but I actually bought the ring from Terry Rice. The ring that I had was from Terry Rice's ring. I bought it, bought music equipment and I'd actually called Brian Cheatum, and kind of, got some insight from him about it, Plus, too, Brian ran, Smyrna and places like that. So, and I didn't want to step on toes, in case, because pretty much that was Brian's town, and he was okay with it. He was cool with it. So he actually helped me get in touch with people at the armory, because I run the armory in Smyrna first and run there, and then actually went from there to the Grand Slam building in Smyrna, Smyrna Murfreesboro line there.
Yeah. Okay. That's cool. That's very cool. What was it? What was the promotion called? What did you call that?
It was ACW.
ACW. What is
American Championship Wrestling.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's a good one.
All right. So around, I want to say it was 07-ish, maybe 08, somewhere around in there. Kilo started running Laverne, Tennessee. Did you help him anyway go on like booking or anything else? Because I think that's the first time. Go ahead. Yeah,
I helped him book. I helped book there for a while, and then pretty much, it was Kilo and Archie. I booked that. I kind of had some insight on it, but it wouldn't. I guess my input wasn't set in stone.
I got another part that is actually just a two-parter. Okay, and the second part. If you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, because I don't know the answer to it, and it might be something personal or something. But at the end of 08, you and a couple others walked out of HWA, and where did y'all go?
Well, I went back to work for Mike because, and it wouldn't. I don't think a walk, because I couldn't remember if that's the time, and I hate to even mention this, but I don't know if because there was I was, as a worker, and you have a booker and promoter, and they want you to do things, you know what I'm saying? So I can't remember if that's when Byford, Lee Byford come in. At the time he was going by Johnny Vortex. I can't remember if that's the time that they had me shoot on him. And I know they had me do it because he apparently, beat up Torch Hudson, and a couple other guys, and they had me go in and do what I did, and then they fired me the next day.
And when I was there when the one I'm talking about, so I wasn't there for that, because I would have remembered that. I
don't know. I can't remember what the ordeal was on that, Quinton. I really don't. But I know once I left there, I went back and worked for Mike Porter. Okay. I just remember
Kilo called me the next day and was like, he's like, man, we've got a bunch of guys quit. It's like, can you help me book and get some guys in here? And I was like, yeah, sure. I just remember that.
Yeah. I can't remember what that was over. I really don't.
I remember him calling the next day. He was just like, he's like, what do I do? Guys have been here since day one. It's just left. And I'm like, well, I guess you're going to have to get some other guys in there. If somebody leaves, you got to replace them. So, yeah, I do remember that he called me, and I was like, he never told me why people, quit. I was like, I didn't worry about it. That wasn't my business to ask.
Right. Yeah. I don't even really remember, really.
Well, it didn't last long, but I think you were back in like 2 months.
Yeah, they had called and they paid me what I wanted. They actually, the reason I came back because they called and they said, hey, would you come back? And I was like, yeah, I'll come back for this. And that's what they said, okay, and they paid me, So yeah. So, but yeah, I went back, because it's, and the money's not great in the business anyway, and but especially some promoters pay, some don't, and I'm not bashing anybody, but it was a lot better than what I was getting before,
Yeah. So, okay.
Well,
That's cool. Well, this question, I've been excited. I'm glad you stuck around HWA because that's where I eventually met you and we became friends after that. So I'm glad you came back, even if I wasn't there that long. But the next question I have, I'm excited to ask because I think this is probably one of the cooler things. There's a few of you guys out there in the territory, in the scene that can say you've done this and you do this. But tell us how you got into bounty hunting and the bail bond business and stuff. Tell us about that.
To be honest, I was at the time I was driving a dump truck, beating myself up, every day. I was like, man, there's got to be something, that I can do where I'm not in this truck all the time, where I can, make, decent money. And matter of fact, that's when Dog the Bounty Hunter, was on TV. And I was sitting there watching it, and I was like, man, maybe I can do that. And this is exactly how it happened. I got the phone book, and I called every bonding company in Murfreesboro in Rutherford County. The last one that answered my call, he's like, yeah. He's like, I'll hire you. He said, go take, the seminar. He said, I'll have you write bonds too. You'll make twice the money. And trust me, I made good money. Yeah. And because it's a good, I don't know about now because I got out of it, but, and I did that. And I actually got out of bonding for a little while and became a cop in Laverne.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I was a cop there for 2 years and then went back to bonding because it didn't pay nothing. Yeah. So I went back to bonding. Yeah, I went back to bail bonding and I actually took Tracy Smothers with me several times. Tracy
really?
Would go, he'd call me and say, he's like, Lee, when you going to take me bounty hunting? I'd say, well, where are you at, Tracy? So he would actually have somebody, and he would meet me around like Springfield, the area like that, or Millerville, and I'd go pick him up, and sometimes I'd go to Evansville or something like that and pick him up, and he would go with me. He'd go with me for a day or two at a time.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
Hey, Lee, where's the furthest you went bounty hunting? Like, how far from Middle Tennessee did you go do it?
Probably, let's see, the farthest I went bounty hunting was Puerto Rico.
Oh, my God. How did that work?
Well, the guy jumped by, and I was actually bounty hunting for several other companies at the time, and there was a guy jumped on for one company out of Murfreesboro, and he was from Puerto Rico. I had a service on my computer where I could pretty much find anybody. So found out that he went back. It was just hard, because Puerto Rico is kind of considered United States soil, territory. Yeah. But I had to get his fingerprints, and I had to get signed letter from the judge over there, and not really over here, but over there to go there and get him. I mean, it was a hard process, but I went.
Yeah.
Wow.
And got.
Yeah, it is the United States, but it's not in a lot of ways. I mean, like
Right.
So, did you have any like like local police or anything give you any backlash or problems with coming in there?
No. The only town that really that has like police that gave me any trouble was Cannon County, Tennessee.
Woodbury?
I went. Woodbury. Mm-hmm. I went to pick a guy up there, and he was there. Well, the daddy come out. I pulled a shotgun on me. I pulled my 45 on him.
Man,
they called Cannon County. And the guy's like, do you have a warrant from a signed letter from the judge? I said, I don't need a warrant from the judge. I said, when he didn't go to court, I said, that automatically, I said, you don't bounty hunt from 9 to 5. He said, well, you're going to have to get a letter from the judge. I said, no, I don't. I said, I can go in there and get him. Because as a bounty hunter, you have more jurisdiction. You have more jurisdiction than the police.
Gotcha.
You don't even have to have a warrant. If you're on their bond, you can, if you know 100%, okay, 100% back there in that domicile, right? You can go in by any means necessary and get them out.
Yeah. Wow.
So, but they give me such a hard time. They're like, no, you're not taking him. I said, I bet you I am. And I got
it. It's awesome.
What was your hairiest situation? Was that it, or?
No, I picked up this guy. Picked him up off off Trinity Lane, Buena Vista Manor Apartments. He was in there, and I'd search for this guy. The time was almost out. I'd put flyers out, and then I'll come to it. We got an apartment. He come in, come at me. We got to fighting on the floor. I wound up putting him in the choke, choked him out, and I don't know, Quinton, if you was at Laverne at the time, but do you remember me having that guy when I brought him? Because I was already at the show. I didn't have a gun or nothing with me, and I got the call, said, if you want to know how do I collect $1,000, so I went and got him and brought him back to the show, and he had that green dye all over him because he was getting sprayed the whole time I was choking him out.
Oh man.
Join CHW Wrestling as we return to Ashland City on March 15th for our star-studded Hollywood Nights event. 6 huge matches, including a 3-way dance for the Ashland City Championship as Undeniable Danny White defends his title against the highly skilled Jason Xavier and the maniacal J.C. Crow. The biggest feud in CHW must finally come to a conclusion as the Tennessee Badass faces off against the Kentucky Iceman one last time in a Kentucky versus Tennessee loser leaves CHW flag match. Plus a massive 6-man tag team grudge match pitting Colton Cage and the CHW tag team champions, the Wild Wolves, against the Sons of Wrestling, Anthony Ray, Luis Antonio, and the CHW heavyweight champion, the all-nighter Austin Wright. Witness the aftermath of the Valentine's Massacre as Chris Green returns with a vengeance after blatantly screwing over his own brother to gain majority ownership of CHW. What will Chris have in store for Steven, Mike, and the rest of the Green family now that he is in control? Also in action, AJ Hall, Dakota Ramsey, and more, including the highly anticipated return of the Alpha Beast, Lex Bane. Plus, the iconic original Glow Girl, Hollywood, will be in attendance with your opportunity to meet her, get photos, and talk to her about her new book, Hooray for Hollywood. Join us for a night of action and excitement as the stars of CHW Pro Wrestling present Hollywood Nights, live from the Ashland City National Guard Armory, Saturday, March 15th. The show starts at 7, but the doors open at 6. Get there early for preferred seating. The last 2 events were standing room only. Delicious and affordable concessions available on site. A 3-hour thrill ride for only $12 ringside and $10 general admission. It's CHW Professional Wrestling. Brought to you by Fonda on 12th, Sir Pizza of Ashland City, Dapper Fades, Ashland City Euros, D&W Residential Cleaning, Mama D's, and the Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling podcast.
I remember one night, y'all chased somebody out to the back through a field.
That was in Chevrolet.
That was somebody that just couldn't work. They got rid of him.
I just remember. I don't know where it was at. I just remember that you were running something that the guy was at the show or something, and I just remember you and a couple others took off running out back chasing a guy. I was like, what is going on? I said, that was Chevrolet. Somebody, I think that was kin to Kilo, and I think Anthony Ingram wound up catching him. I remember like 3 or 4 of y'all took off running, and I was like, what is going on? And somebody said, that guy's got a bond on him. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it was Brittany Love and Anthony Ingram, and there was somebody else. They was all running after him.
I remember
Yeah.
What an idiot to show up at the show, man. What?
Yeah.
Wow, man, he loved him some wrestling.
Apparently, he was going to watch the show at all costs.
Man, I mean, that's the fan you want. You got to run them off. That's unfortunate, but they'll rob a bank and come watch wrestling, and then they can catch me. No, I'm just kidding. But so who else? I know that Hammerjack did some with Mark Anthony. I know that you said Tracy did. Who else out there was a bounty hunter, bail bondsman?
Moondog out of Cleveland, Tennessee. What was his name, Quinton?
Larry Cheatum.
Yeah, Larry Cheatum.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That, I don't know. I was the one that actually had talked to Hammerjack and Mark about the bonding business.
That's cool.
About getting in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, but it got to be like any other job. I mean, about like the business. I mean, if you was on the road more than you was at home, so.
Yeah, that ain't good. Man, well, is there any crazy stories else from your bail bond time? Because, I mean, this is funny. This is some good stuff. Is there anything you remember that sticks out that you haven't told us?
Yeah, I went to the Philippines.
Man.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes, tell us.
Yeah, that was actually a little farther than Puerto Rico. I forgot about that. I went to the Philippines and got a guy. He jumped bond for Cumberland bail bonds out of Murfreesboro. I wound up finding him. He was actually selling ecstasy and sewing them in T-shirts, and he was running through the custom through New York. So I had set it up to where a whole fake Facebook, all this stuff, and set it up to where I wanted to buy like thousands of quantities from it, right? So I got it set up where he would meet me like at the airport, right, in the Philippines. So they flew the only airline that let me carry my gun was Southwest Airlines, and plus bring him back in handcuffs.
Wow.
So I flew over there, and man, when I got off plane, man, there's people standing around with machine guns and everything. Man, that one right there really made me nervous.
Yeah, no doubt. Man, wow. And so really, I mean, was it just the overall, just the travel of it that got you out of that, basically?
Yeah, it was. A lot of the laws had changed. A lot of the laws had changed, and it just Quentin, I'd actually got Tommy Bigfigure in the bonding business too.
Well, I remember a story. I remember he told a story one night. He came up to Laverne and he came by and just visited, and he was telling the story about you and him went to Dallas to get a guy in
Houston, Texas.
It was somewhere in Texas. I remember because I remember y'all were going to leave because Tom had to come back to work because if he didn't, he'd miss his holiday pay. And
he worked at Tommy worked at All Trans in Smyrna. So Tommy was bounty hunt with me, and this was a bond from the same Cumberland bail bond. Well, we was hunting for this guy. Well, I found out because I found out through his sister, like tapping into her stuff, that he was in Houston, right? And he was calling from a payphone. So I told Elsie. So we get down there, and Elsie owned the bonding company. So me and Tommy go down there. We search. We found a payphone. Okay, we found the street, the area. So here's what we did. Tommy was outside the car. I said, Tommy, we're gonna walk down the street, and I said, I'm gonna call this payphone number, and I said, when it rings, answer it, because we know that's, and we found out, man, we walked all over Houston looking, homeless shelter, couldn't find it. Well, he apparently found out, I guess, from somebody telling him that we were there, right? So he had called Elsie, the bonding owner, and she said, I'll bond you back out. I'll send you, I'll buy you a bus ticket, and I'll give you $50, to eat on. So she's like, okay. So he said, send it Western Union. So I talked to a police officer there, and I said, where around this area would he get, this money at Western Union? He said, the only place around here is the Greyhound bus station. So we go there, and this is how it was bad, because he looked at me and Tommy. He said, are y'all packing? And we was like, yeah. He said, good. You'll need to be around here.
Wow.
So we sat there. She sent it. Well, he come in. His name was James Jenkins. And I was at the payphone, like I was talking on the payphone. Tommy was standing, kind of sitting at a table behind, like there's like a little eating area behind the kind of the Western Union. Well, we seen the guy walk in and go straight. I mean, he had a hoodie on and just walking as fast as he can to the Western Union counter. And he got the woman. The woman picked it up. She went to the like a back room, and she's like, "Sir, we can't give you this money right now because I told Elsie don't send it until 10 o'clock, and this was like 9:45, right?" She's like, "Well, you can't get it now." So he turns around. As soon as he did, I grabbed his arm. Tommy grabs his arm, and that was it. You know, but he was homeless, living on a creek bank.
Man, you'd have never found him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man. Wow, that was genius, though. That was smart. Draw him in and catch him there. Yeah. That was smart. Yeah, that's cool.
I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot of footwork, man. It really is. It's a lot of time.
Okay. Yeah, I believe it. Well, when I do a Give Me Back My Bail Bondsman podcast, you can be my co-host, Lee. Okay.
Right. All right. That'll work.
Because this is awesome. Man. Well, okay. So I'm going to be selfish right now. So the next question I have is, so I don't remember exactly how or why this happened, but around 2011, 2012, I had started working some at SAW, and I kind of saw, you know, the writing on the wall with Porter's, right? It was kind of going down. And I remember Trenton would come in. I remember I brought in JP Magnum. I brought in so many people, JP, and I brought in all these guys. And did I bring you in and ask you to come in, or did Porter book you and to come in? But I just remember
booked me to come in.
That's what I thought. Okay. I figured. And so I remember being there, and Plunky had been helping me, but Plunky couldn't do every week there. And so Porter had actually somewhat begrudgingly, because I was really the only person that was there on regular basis that would even think about trying to do it. He actually gave me the book for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks maybe. Plunky helped me the first week, and then you got there, and I remember you and I going over the card together. Okay.
Right.
And do you remember all this?
Yeah. In a sense, I do a little bit. So.
Yeah. And I remember I said, bro, I've never even put a card together. I said, I'm sorry that I'm the one I said, but I'll write it down if you tell me what to do. And you were like, all right, let's figure it out. And so it was on. A little bit later, maybe about 10 minutes, you step away, and I'm standing in the room with the boys. And all of a sudden, this big, gigantic man comes in the door. And you walk up to me and you're like, "Hey, Jimmy, this is Brian Lee." And I'm like, holy crap, it's primetime Brian Lee. You know, I'm marking out. I'm like, man, there ain't too many guys like you coming in here, you know. And he asked me, he said, "Are you the money man?" And I was like,
that sounds like Brian.
Yeah, and I respect that. He's a pro, you know. And I said, "No, sir." I said the pale, pasty guy down there is that'll shake your hand funny. No, but yeah, I just remember that was like a surreal moment for me. But I know I thanked you at the time, and I've thanked you in the previous times, but I do really appreciate you saving me there, man. Because really, I had no clue.
That's what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, and I'm not bashing the business, but it's not like that anymore, and that's the way it needs to be. We're all brothers, you know, in this business, and it comes down to even a booker or the matchmaker, even if they help them, you know, if they ask for help, you know, that's what it is.
Yeah. And I know you had done it before. And honestly, man, you know, there were guys that had worked there the whole time, even before me, that were in that room working with us. And I'm sure they looked at me like I was a jerk. But, man, I don't know. I just had this kinship with you that I felt like at least I know you had booked before. And I didn't know if, But
the thing is, here's the thing. Sometimes in the business, and Quinton may agree with, sometimes you got to be a jerk.
Yes.
You know, sometimes you got to be a jerk. You know, if you're some guys they think I've been here, you know, for say 2 years. You know what I'm saying? I ought to have been the one to take the books. Well, maybe here's my theory, and it wouldn't have mattered to me Because here's my thing: if Mike Porter or so and so or whoever's booking thought that you had a better head on your shoulders than this guy, then more power to you. You know what I'm saying? I don't hate on that. So.
And I respect you saying that, Lee, and I would never say that, but I think it was literally, I just said, do you want me to help? And he said, sure. That's what it was. Yeah. I don't think he was like, Jimmy, I've taught him a lot in this year or whatever. It was, and I respect that you said that because I appreciate where you're coming from with that. But I really feel like it was truly, I was willing to try it. And I was like, man, I want to at least try it. And then, of course, I've got Plunky here to help me on 1 week. I've got you to help me the next week. And then my time was up pretty, because if you remember, Crimson and Sam Shaw came in. Do you remember that night? And I know you were there. I'm pretty sure Trenton was there. If he wasn't, he would come in. Yeah. But anyway, it was, and then Brian was there, but it was, honestly, Aaron Camaro, whoever may want to kill me for saying this, but that time frame, we actually had a pretty strong crew there of guys that were not regulars. And that was the point. It was like, I've met all these dudes at different promotions and I've never worked with them here. Let's do something fun with them. Unfortunately, I didn't have the ability or the need or the want to stick around long enough to make that happen. But, I do appreciate you helping me, man.
Oh, not a problem. But you know, it's sometimes it's good to step out of that box and have guys like that that's not there on a regular to come in and work that show and have some of the ones that are there every week to kind of step back and say, hey, take the night off, because here's the thing, people get tired of seeing you. Okay. If they see you too much, they don't want to see you. Right. So sometimes it's good to, hey, I'm going to let you off this week. Just if we can't get you booking here because I'm going to bring in this person, this person, and this person. Okay. Right. It's good to step out of that box and have a kind of a different locker room here and there, because the same ones they see week in and week out, the people get tired of that.
They do.
And it's good to bring in fresh faces, and it gives them something, something different to look at.
Yeah. And so just to kind of ease my mind on this, did Porter at any point say to you, hey, help Jimmy out with this? Or was it me asking you? Because I just want to make sure.
No, you asked me.
Cool.
And I didn't mind. I didn't mind at all.
I knew you wouldn't. Yeah. And I mean, you were like, okay, well, that one, have they done that one before? I remember you saying, like, has this been going on for a while? Okay, let's, and we kind of fine tuned the bill and the card and it worked out. And I greatly appreciate it. But it was just a lot of fun in that experience. And honestly, it gave me an extra, because like I said, previous to that, you'd always been cool to me. We'd always been friendly with one another, but it kind of put you on another level to me as far as respect and appreciation.
Well, I appreciate that, man. I mean, man. And that's anybody. If they come up and they say, hey, would you help me with this, or would you help me? I'm more than happy to. I wouldn't want to just go and say, no, I ain't got time for that. I've never been like that.
Yeah. Well, that's cool because you were, and I appreciate that, man. So for sure. This is a good question. I'm going to let Sheik take it. Go ahead.
All right, Lee, tell us about, we talked about him a little bit there. You and Jimmy mentioned it, meeting Brian Lee and tagging with him, working together at SAW. Talk a little bit about Brian Lee. Brian's
a good guy. He's like my brother. I ain't got to talk to him in a while, but Brian's a good dude. Like I said, I've known Brian back when he got fired a couple times from WWF back in the day.
Yeah.
Back then he lived in Laverne. I knew him then. And we've been friends for a long time. But he had gotten a little trouble, and I kind of took him in and said, hey, come stay with me, and this and that, and we got him where he needed to be, and we was just sitting down, and and it was like, man, why don't we come up with a tag team? Won't we? And he was like, yeah, man. He said, let's do it. And we just sat down and thought about it. We got the Primetime Outlaws, you got Primetime Brian Lee and Outlaw Lee Condry. We just threw those together.
Yeah.
And
perfect.
I had the leather vest. Brian had the leather vest, did the biker deal, and we just, we kind of made it work.
Yeah.
And we talked to Mark Anthony. At SAW and Kroll and talked to those, and they brought us in, and we had time there. We did, we had fun.
Yeah, yeah. That was such a cool gimmick because he'd really come fresh out of that DOA gimmick, on WWE TV, and he was kind of already the gimmick, and you had already been doing your gimmick, and they were pretty much the same gimmick in the long run, you know. How did you meet him officially? Was it wrestling that you met him, or was it different?
No, it's just we lived, pretty much. I didn't live far from him at the time, and I said, I knew him. Like I said, he was on the road a lot at the time. Yeah. And
just kind of knew him forever, basically. Is that how it is?
Right. Yeah. I just known him for a long time. And I actually, go on trips with him and stuff like that. To shows and
that's cool
and stuff and
when's the last time you've talked to him? Because he's kind of
that's
hiding or something.
Yeah, it's when he lived with me. We made him a Facebook, right, and he had found his high school sweetheart.
Oh,
right, and that's one reason we kind of backed off from Saul. We dropped the belts to TJ's boys, during that big show for TJ.
Yep. Great show.
And we dropped the titles to them, and then kind of faded out there because he wanted to rekindle with her and move back to Florida and do all that. So I drove him back. He's like, brother, will you help me with a plane ticket? I said, no, I'll drive you there. So I drove him to Florida. Stayed the weekend at his mom's and so we had a blast and talked to him numerous times after that, but kind of lost base. I don't even have his number. I talked to Donnie Eaton.
Yeah.
Quinton. I talked to him because I heard that Brian was like bad off, and like he was in the hospital. And Donnie had told me that he had talked to Brian's mom and said that he had a heat stroke.
Oh no!
He had got a job. He was like directing traffic and stuff for, I guess, a construction company.
Wow.
And,
can you imagine that though?
living in Florida, close to Jacksonville and stuff. It gets hot,
Yeah, man.
And when you get, when you start getting old like us, then you can't take that heat.
No doubt.
When you're younger, and it got him. And Donnie told me that he had talked to Brian's mom and said that he was doing better, that he was actually speaking and stuff like that. So
that's good. Yeah, Wolfie, Wolfie's his tag partner in TNA, and Wolfie saw him up at a promotion at a convention up in New York at the big event around 2022, and that was the last time Wolfie talked to him. He got his number, but I don't think it's the same anymore. But anyway, Brian, he's just a legend, man. He's just a great wrestling legend, and I mean, Jared and I have seen him wrestle numerous times through Smoky Mountain and local promotions, and I mean, it was always something you could see Brian Lee, and then he did Memphis and then WWE and everywhere, man. WCW, Continental, I mean, Southeastern, wherever you want to put him, he was awesome. So, I hope he's doing well. So, man, this has been awesome, Lee. We really appreciate this. As we're kind of starting to wrap things up, I do want to get back into Cousin. Okay, so obviously we had him on episode 17, Cousin Condry. What are your thoughts on Cousin right now? How's he doing, man? Where do you feel like he is in his career?
Great. He could advance even further.
Oh yeah.
He's just a good. And I'm not trying to be biased or anything like that, but I mean, for his size, he can move. He can work. And I'm proud of him.
He's incredible. I think. I think he's an awesome worker. Yeah, I know, man. Yeah. I told him, I said, Trenton, there's legends that didn't get to go to Japan. I said, you got to think about it, man. Like that is huge, bro. And I just love the gimmick. Do you remember when he was coming up with that at all? What did you have any input on that, or was that him totally? Or
it was that was I think that was him and Byford that they were doing the whole. He always had the Trenton Condry, like the cousin, the whole cousin deal, and Byford was going by Uncle Biff.
Right.
So they come up with that. So with the mask deal, I think Trenton may have come up with the mask deal. I can't remember.
Yeah. Well, I'll just go listen to his episode. I won't ask you that anymore. I'll just go listen to his episode. So with him, you know, I remember at 10 years old, I thought he was going to break my knees with a baseball bat. And then 13, 14, he's at Porter's, and I manage him one night, and I'm like, holy crap, this kid is amazing. He was doing like Kevin Steen stuff. He was doing, luchador stuff that, you know, and he's not a little kid, you know, he's at 14, he's basically the size of a man. You know what I mean?
Right.
And yeah, I know he probably had a lot of, you know, overall maturing to do, but as far as, you know, the body style and the body size, he was pretty much there, and he was killing it. And I was like, holy crap. And I asked him after the match, I said, how old are you? And he said, I'm 14. And I said, you're an incredible kid. And he was like, thank you, sir. And I was like, man, you don't even have to call me sir, but I know how you are, you know, but he just incredible.
Yeah. Back in it was 2000, I believe it was 2012. Maybe when was doing a Murfreesboro show. It was me, Trenton, and Brian Crisper against Wolfie, Brian Lee, and Tommy Rich.
Yes.
And that turned out real good, which Trenton has worked with Wolfie numerous times, and
right.
And Wolfie didn't have anything bad to say about him, you know, and he's worked with Brian Lee numerous times, and Brian Crisper actually wanted to come back in and kind of turn heel where Trenton did the leg drop off the top, you know.
Yeah.
Brian handed him his goggles, Trenton put them on, got on top rope, leg drop off the top. Brian Crisper wanting to come back in. Trenton was 15.
Yeah.
He was wanting to come back in and turn heel and work Trenton in an angle.
Yeah.
Because he loved the way he worked, you know, and that made me proud. You know, that made me feel good.
Yeah, it should, man. It should. He's an incredible worker. He was doing those, those little, I don't even know what they're called, but it just reminds me of like Kevin Steen. He'd roll, he would fly, like run at the turnbuckles. Let's say you're in a seated position, laying back into the turnbuckles. You're about to receive the stink face by Rikishi or whatever. Okay.
Right.
And Trenton would run at him and flip and do a barrel roll right into him and like land upside down on him. And I was like, holy crap, that kid's 14 years old and doing that stuff. I'm like, wow. So
and it's just he's learned a lot, you know, from everybody, you know.
Sure.
It's just, you know, he's just absorbed, you know, from you know, everybody, you know, that he works, you know, that can, you know, he can learn from. You know, it wasn't just me or Brian or anybody. It was just, you know, he learns from everybody he works, you know, and you know, I'm proud of him.
Yeah, you should be. You should be.
It's like me, like my, you know, Brian Cheatum, he taught me how to bump. He taught me how to run the ropes, you know, and everything like that. But you know, I learned a lot of psychology from like Quinton. You know, Quinton was, you know, taught me a lot. You know, Shane Morton, you know, taught me a lot. You know, with Brian, you know, it's just working to people and really you take, and nobody really works the same. You know, everybody does things differently, and you know, and just psychology. You know, you can bump and all this, but man, learning psychology is the key. Yeah. You know, and you know, listen, like people like I said, like Quinton and Shane and people like that. You just absorb it and you learn. You know, a mixture from everybody.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, Shane is a huge deal for me. You know, so go ahead.
That's how you learn, just working different people. You know, and because you don't learn. You just learn to bump stuff, and you really learn to work. You start working other people. You start picking up things. Yeah.
Right.
Well, since we're kind of talking about this, so many people that, as I've learned, you know, like Brian trained you, right? But so like in certain instances, like, you know, Wolfie D, okay, we'll do an example of Wolfie. Gypsy Joe and Rick Reynolds trained him, okay? And Pete too is the stepdad. And then he went on to work Danny Davis, and that's where he was seasoned up with George Weingroff and Danny Davis. Who do you feel like was the guy that seasoned you? Was it Brian as well, or who was your next step?
Brian Lee seasoned me.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, I learned like psychology from like a lot of veterans before me, like I said, Quinton and Shane Morton and Steve Morton and guys like that. But when me and Brian was running together, going shows, double shot, and doing this, I really learned a lot. On why this needs to happen. Why does this not need to happen at this time? Why should I be there at this exact moment? It's psychology. Why that's really like when my light cut on, and it really made sense.
Yeah.
It really did.
Yeah. I love that because every podcast we do, I get a new light bulb that goes off. It's amazing. Right. I'm telling you, every story I hear, I'm like, man, that makes sense now. Holy crap.
Yeah. You can be in the business, and it took several years for my light to come on, to why I'm like, man, this is why,
Right.
And it's just learning, and it's learning, and plus a lot of guys don't sit. If you have a monitor in the dressing room, sit and watch the matches. Sit and watch. They don't do that anymore. If they sit and pay attention to the matches, that especially the younger guys, they'll learn.
Right. Exactly. It's like, wait, they didn't do an extra spot there. They actually slowed down and told a story. Holy crap.
Yeah. And nobody asks anymore. Like, okay, what are y'all using this finisher? Are you using this finisher?
They don't do that.
They don't know. Yeah. No. It's just, they go out there and they do everything they know to do in 10, 15 minutes and call it a night.
Yeah.
And it's just right. It's, hey, how long will it take me to be a wrestler? As this and this. Well, so and so said they're going to charge me this, and that's like $200 cheaper than what say you would charge me. And I'm not just talking about me, but I've heard this conversation at shows. And okay, it's a difference of going driving a Volkswagen and a Cadillac. Okay, if you want somebody that's been in the business a year, 2 years to train you, if they're going to charge you $200 cheaper. Okay, then go that route. But let's see how that works out.
How that pays off for you. If that $200 savings was really worth it. Yeah, man. So, okay, are you finished wrestling? Are you completely done?
Yeah, I've got some health issues. At some point in my career, I broke my neck. I didn't know it.
Oh man.
And so I went in. I've had neck surgery. I've got a titanium plate in the space between my C5 and 6.
Okay.
So that and it's just a thing, man. The knees are getting bad. Back. It's just I worked harder than I did smarter.
Okay.
And I pay the toll for that. Now. So
yeah.
So if I wouldn't have done. If I wouldn't have done a lot of the crazy stuff and that I did earlier in the career, then my career would have lasted a whole lot longer.
Trenton, is he listening to you when you tell him these stories about what you need to do?
He does, but I try to tell him, and he does listen, and listen, but he's
right. I know.
Trenton will go and go. Right. And I'll tell him, and he's already starting to hurt, and he's 27 years old.
Yeah.
And I said, okay. I said, slow down a little bit. Try this. Try that. And he has in some aspect. But two, you got to look if you're out in front of a crowd, and they're popping, then you're gonna try to give it all you got,
right.
and that's what he does. He wants to make sure that he gives them their money's worth.
Yeah, he definitely does that. He definitely does. Like I said, kind of as we're wrapping things up, we always pivot to the Sheik's second favorite question. I got that right this time. Sheik, take it away, brother.
All right, Lee. So we'll finish up this episode. If you have to look back at your career and think about all the matches you had, can you give us one match to say that was my favorite to be a part of?
Let's see. That would be a hard one. I don't know. I've had a lot of really good matches. I've had a lot of really bad ones. I can't really pinpoint. I've had really good matches with Quinton. I've had good matches with Shane. I really can't pinpoint like my favorite match. But let's see.
If you got a couple, you can give us a couple.
Okay. Well, I worked like Quinton. I don't know if you remember this, but back in the old McMinnville days, I worked a match with Bobby Eaton there one night, and I think this is when Troy was running that.
Probably was. I wasn't. I don't think I was there. Because I was in and out of there when Troy and them was running. Well, actually, they were. So I worked. I had worked Bobby Eaton there, and I would say that's one of my favorites because I really love working Bobby.
He's one of the best.
Seriously. Yeah.
Yes, he is. No
question.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, and it's sad to say that so many people don't know that, but it's the truth. He was so incredible. Yeah, I think that's a great one to pick for sure. Lee, man, I greatly appreciate you spending time with us, telling your story. You know, when, like I said earlier, I embarrassed myself because I took too long to get you on. But like I said, it all paid off because we got Quinton with us now. And I promise you the questions would be way better now. So, but we do appreciate you, man. Do you have any shout outs you'd like to make before we hang up for tonight? To everybody, just a shout out to if any of the young guys are out here listening to the podcast, listen to your veterans. Work smart. You don't have to work hard. Yeah. There you go. Enough said. Mic drop.
Yeah, perfect.
Thank you, Lee. It's been a pleasure, man. Really appreciate
thank you guys thank y'all for having me.
And we'll have to get you back together. Maybe make a Condry episode coming soon or something, man.
That'll work. That sounds good.
All right, man. Well, take care, buddy. We thank you so much. Thank you, fellas.
Great to meet you, man.
Thank you.
Hey, Lee, it was good talking to you, buddy.
You too, Quinton. You be careful, buddy.
You too. Take care, brother.
Hey, man, come see us at the reunion in May, man.
Yeah, we will.
All right, buddy. Thanks, Lee. See you, bud.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, once again, we thank our buddy, the Outlaw Lee Condry, for that awesome story. We'll be right back to wrap things up after the break on Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling.
Are you a pro wrestling fan? Well, stop by Captain's Corner, where you can get autographed photos, cards, magazines, and figures from all of your favorite wrestling superstars of the past, present, and future. You'll also be able to participate in live signings in the weeks and months to come. Make sure to stop by Captain's Corner on Facebook and give us a holler. Remember, cheers to the working man.
That's right, it's the talk of Middle Tennessee, the channel you love to hate and the channel you hate to love. It's Brian Turner from Brian Turner's VHS Rehab. And if you're looking for matches from Wolfie D to Jerry Lawler to Dusty Rhodes and the team that put a pimp before your eyes and a goatee between your thighs, Booty Call and Athena, go to lostwrestling.com. See, I made it easy for you. Brian Turner's VHS Rehab. Booyah.
Hi, this is Mike Needham, host of the Reckless Abandon Podcast with Mike Needham. We invite you to jump on your favorite podcast platform and search for the Reckless Abandon Podcast and give us a listen. I'm sometimes joined by a part-time podcaster, part-time co-host, and full-time wife, Tiffany Nicole. We talk wrestling, we talk pop culture, we talk local events, local happenings in West Tennessee, and a ton of other stuff. But be sure to check out the Reckless Abandon Podcast. Find us on Facebook. Also, look up the Micro Group Podcasting family on Facebook and see some of our other podcasts we have out there. Until next time, make good choices and always remember, no dollar, no dice.
Oh, Sheik and Quinton, one more time. Excellent episode. Thank you so much, Outlaw Lee Condry. Really cool story. Always cool to hear that together. And man, oh man, I might have to start a podcast called Give Me Back My Bail Bondsman. Because that was some cool stories there too, man.
Oh, that was great.
Yeah. Did you know many of those, Quinton?
Some of them. The Puerto Rico and Philippines, that's crazy.
I know, man. I know. Yeah.
I can't imagine flying to the Philippines with a gun, knowing you've got to get a guy back on the plane.
Yeah.
Kind of by any means necessary.
Yeah. Hooker by crook.
Having to get through customs with, I don't know how that even works.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he did it. Good for you, Lee. So, yeah. But thank you so much, Lee, for being on the show. We once again greatly appreciate that. We also greatly appreciate y'all so much for supporting us. We're at GMBMPW on Facebook, Instagram, X, and YouTube. Keep liking, subscribing, following, supporting, sharing. All that means the world to us, guys. You don't know how much. We thank you so much for that. Support our sponsors, HWA Wrestling. They've got a show every month in Ashland City. Make sure you're there when it's going on. You'll hear about it all over our podcast pages. Once again, y'all, we thank you so much, and hopefully we got a great show next week. We're not fully sure who it is. Knock on wood, it's somebody awesome. You know it will be. Guys, once again, we thank y'all so much. Guys, you have anything else before we leave?
Brother, I just want to thank you for all the hard work you do with this, and just say that, man, you say we don't have everything ironed out for next week, but I've got full faith that you'll come up with somebody and get the right guy in place, man.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. All right. Well, that'll be all then. Quinton, you good, buddy?
Yeah, just keep those guys, everybody in their prayers. We tell them every week. Everybody knows who they are. Just keep praying for them.
Keep praying, keep praying. That's all you can do. Thank you so much. So for our guest, the Outlaw Lee Condry, for the Plastic Sheik, for Quinton Quarisma, and for myself, we are Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling. We'll see y'all next time.
Don't forget.
Now look what you're looking at right here. The thugs. T is for terrible. H is for hell. U is for ugly. And G is for jail. Because a thug can't spell.
With a tear in my eye. This is the greatest moment in my life.
We'll see you later.
This has been a James Rock Street production.